Hola a todos! I've had an especially long week. The acne is out and about, and we are just going to embrace her presence. So I had reached out on my community tab and had inquired as to who would want to do a study with me video. So as someone who suffered through the very mediocre US public schooling system, necesito un poco de café. As my foreign language requirement, I took Spanish. I then continued with it into college, but didn't take it as far as I wish I had, hence my very poor attempt at a self-study schedule. On a little more of an exciting note, I actually applied to go back to school in the fall. And thanks to our dear leader's attempts at defunding the USPS in his dire attempts at keeping himself in office by sabotaging vote by mail, the institution to which I have applied have yet to receive any of my transcripts, even though it's been 2.5 weeks. So hopefully I will hear back soon, and this fall I will begin taking online courses towards a Spanish language degree. Hey, que bueno! In an attempt to get a head start on said Spanish courses, I have made a rather meager start at trying to refresh the very little Spanish knowledge I have retained since I last took a Spanish course and actively used it in conversation. I will admit I do not use Spanish as much as I would like. I'm working on that, okay? I just lack the confidence in formulating thoughts and sentences, and then I second guess myself in actually speaking those thoughts and sentences out loud because I'm afraid I'm going to make an ass out of myself or inadvertently offend someone who is a native Spanish speaker. Those are just some of the issues I'm trying to work through. Me encanta café. Okay, enough stalling. Vamos a empezar. I would classify my Spanish language skills to be equivalent to that of a 6-year-old. In other words, I got a lot of work to do. So I'll just briefly touch on all of the resources that I like to use for my self-study routine. I'm currently not utilizing any textbooks, simply because if I am actually going to be attending school in the fall, I did not want to spend any unnecessarily dinero on textbooks since I'm going to be spending much more dinero on college textbooks. So all the learning resources I've been using are all online, which is kind of nice because they're easily accessible to all and they're free. I love free things. So the first website I'm going to talk about, I'm sure you've all heard of, Duolingo. It's a very popular language learning app. That's right, it is an app. I like to use the actual website. It has all of the same lessons in the exact same layout that the phone application does, but what I like about the website version over the app is that in each individual lesson, you're able to physically type out translations rather than just picking pre-translated words to formulate a sentence like you would in the app version. In this instance, it's asking me to translate "Mi abuelo nos compra una mascota," which would be my grandfather buys us a pet. Yay! I got it right! So typically I'll use the app on my phone for 10 to 15 minutes before I go to bed, just as a quick little activity to do at the end of the day. When I'm actually sitting at my desk and really focusing on studying, I will usually start on Duolingo and just go through some of the past lessons that I started on my phone. I'll just go through and do as many typed translations as I can to just really reinforce all of that good, sweet knowledge. Tu siempre me ayudas, gracias. You always help me. Thank you. Why don't you teach me German? ¿Por qué no me enseñas alemán? My mom buys me a lot of books. madre me compra muchos libros.
Felipe, ¿me quieres?
Felipe, do you love me? And then I'll go on to the two other websites that I heavily use. One being Studyspanish.com. This website is great if you are a beginner and or like right in between the beginner and intermediate stage and you're just needing a really good free resource to refresh some basic knowledge. What I really like about this website is the grammar lessons that they have. They break it down into several units, and then each unit is broken down into different core lessons that really do a good job of explaining really critical grammar structure in a very easy to comprehend and succinct way. Grammar is the most confusing part of any language, which sucks because grammar is literally the core of every language. So if you don't understand grammar and proper sentence structure, then you will never be able to speak, understand, read, comprehend any part of whatever language you are trying to learn. So when it comes to utilizing said website, I like to take notes. What a novel concept! When it comes to taking notes, I have two notebooks. One is dedicated entirely to grammar. The second is entirely dedicated to vocabulary. So everybody has their own unique way of taking notes. Mine is pretty simple. I like to color code. I'm a very visual person, so if I can break down different concepts by color, and therefore it is easier for me to remember / retain said information. Raise your hand if you can relate. So the way I break down my notes. The title of the topic in which I'm taking notes on, I will put in black. For example, this here section is all about the differences between using saber versus conocer. Any definitions, specifically those that really have to relate to sentence structure or the grammar behind whatever I'm taking notes on, I will put in blue. And then I will usually jot down several example sentences. First, I will write it out in Spanish, which will be in red, and then directly below it, I will translate it into English, which will then be in black. Now, I know I have an entirely separate notebook that is dedicated specifically to vocab, but sometimes in your grammar lessons, you do come across verbs or other vocab terms that have a direct influence into the grammatically correct structure of a sentence. So in that case, I do also list it in my grammar notebook. I use two different shades of the same colored pen. This pinkish lighter one I use for verbs and the conjugated forms of said verbs. And then the darker shade of purple is just simple vocabulary words that are not verbs, but are maybe nouns or adjectives or other things. Thank God I never planned on getting my teaching license because I'm awful at this. Anyway, so that's a brief rundown on how I do all of my note taking. Hace 2 semanas que trabajo en la tienda. So I have been working at the store for 2 weeks. All right, so me coming up with my own example sentences is a great segue into the second website that I use, and honestly, my final online resource, the beautiful SpanishDictionary.com. So this website is really great because one, its translations, both from English to Spanish and vice versa, Spanish to English, are really good. The best that I've seen on these here interwebs. When I'm making my own example sentences, I will usually hop over to Spanish Dictionary and I will type it in. Hace 2 semanas que trabajo en la tienda. And I will usually translate it and I will see if my translation is correct or is even relatively close to being correct. Another great thing about this website is that it will break down the translation word for word. So if I were to put back in hace 2 semanas que trabajo en la tienda, you can go back down to the word by word breakdown and it'll tell you hacer is to do or to make, dos is 2, semana is week, que is that, trabajo, work, job, en is in or on, la, the, tienda, store. So if you broke it down, to do, or I had been working 2 weeks in the store. To make this type of expression negative, just add the word no before the verb, as in the following formula. Hace plus time plus que plus no plus present tense form of the verb. So then I will go back to my blue and I will say for negative, and then I will write down the sentence structure breakdown. Again, hace plus time plus que plus no plus present tense verb. So hace un año que no estudió español. Okay, this is why I'm really hesitant to actually try and speak Spanish to people, okay? Because I'm terrified that I'm going to make a complete ass out of myself. And it doesn't help that I am the biggest introvert ever and just don't like talking to people in general. So I know it's really popular with these study with me videos where people literally just hit record on their camera and it's just them studying for hours on end in silence. A lot of them don't even put study music to it. I'm not gonna do that. This is going to be heavily edited because I don't trust the things that just splurt out of my mouth. So I'm sure I've said this before in another video, but I'm actually back at my day job full time, which has really cut into my everything else time. My lying around time, my studying Spanish time, my having time to film YouTube videos and edit them the way I want them to be edited. Don't be surprised if I go from posting once a week, which honestly, let's be real, I've only been doing pretty consistently since March, and that's only because of COVID. But now that I am back to exposing myself to the public, that didn't sound right. I'm back to being a working woman. And I have less time for the things that I actually enjoy. Bum, 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 bum. Juan lava su carro. Juan washes his car. That's non-reflexive. When referring to body parts, use the definite article. That's la cara, not su cara. Okay, that makes sense. Lesson titled Direct Object Pronouns Part 3. You learn that when there are two verbs, you have two options on where to place the pronoun before the conjugated verb or attached to the end of the infinitive. So I want to see it would be lo quiero ver, or you could say quiero verlo. Lo debemos comprar. We should buy it, or debemos comprarlo, not Rio, comprarlo. Now I can't fucking read. Oh God, it's the Rona. Maybe someday soon, I will be confident and comfortable enough to only speak Spanish through an entire video. Oh, could you imagine? Okay, I have been going at this for about 2 hours. 2 horas. So I'd say that's a pretty sufficient study period for one day. I don't normally study for this long. Usually I do about like a half hour to 45 minutes just because I feel if I go more than that, I start to check out, and after a certain point, everything that I'm reading and trying to take in just goes poof. As always, thank you so much for wasting your time on me. If you're currently in the process of learning a second language, either through instruction by a teacher or self-study, let me know down in the comments what language you're learning and how far you are and how it's going. Any tips that I might be able to use myself in my language learning journey. Of course, give this video a big like if you want to see more study with me videos. So yeah, with all of that being said, I guess I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego!